Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulillahi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in wa ba'd. So, inshallah, today, I just wanted to, I guess you could say give advice, but give advice through a story. So, inshallah, let's just call this story time, inshallah. So, what I wanted to talk about was the story of Al-Amash. I'm not going to go through his whole life and everything. I just want to go through certain events so that people can understand exactly the type of advice that I'm trying to get to, inshallah. So Al-Amash was Al-Imam in the Qira'at, an Imam as far as the Qira'at, like the recitations of the Quran, and an Imam in Hadith. He's from the Rijal of the Sahihain. You can find his name all throughout Bukhari and Muslim and all the different books of Hadith because he was known for being very, very, very accurate. Very, very accurate with his narrations. Very accurate. Even to the point of just like, not even making a mistake. I mean, he's a human being. Human beings gonna make mistakes. But the point is that he made mistakes so rarely to the point where people would just stop everything they were doing if he made a mistake. It was to that point. Also with his recitation of the Quran. And so he was known for being accurate, but he was also known for a second thing. He was known for his tough and rough behavior. His treatment of students that he did not deem as being serious. So what he would do is with the students that he would see as not being serious, he would, let's just say that he had a special type of treatment, inshallah. We'll go, and then this is the whole point, is to give some examples of that type of treatment. One of the examples of this is that he actually bought, he didn't buy because it's not permissible to buy, but he got a dog. All right, he got a dog and he trained the dog to attack anybody that he saw with a notebook, that it saw with a notebook, and because he wanted the dog to attack the people that were coming to ask him and bother him about hadith. Not because he didn't want to give knowledge to the people. He wasn't acting in that regards, but what he wanted to do is he wanted to weed out all the people that were not serious. All the people that just came and just wanted to get a hadith because they wanted a hadith from Al-Amash, because he had one of the higher chains and narrations of his time. So being that, if you get a hadith from Amash, you're the man, right? So he wanted to weed those people out. So he took the dog and he trained the dog to attack anybody that came to his house with a notebook. Now, the very serious student, they would be able to struggle through the attack of the dog and make it to the door or knock on his door. So if he knew if the person knocked on the door that he was serious, because the student was not really serious. He's trying to just study and get a hadith just to pad his resume. Once the dog comes to attack him, what's going to happen is the person's going to run off. He's going to get scared and be like, oh, khalas, I just go to another sheikh. I don't need to deal with this, right? So one day, two students, they made it to his door and they're knocking on the door. And he knew that these students were not serious. So he opened up the door. He's like, how did you get to my door? And they said, Al-Amash, your dog is dead. It died. So that's how we got to the door. And just to show you how Al-Amash was, he said, Allah yarham, alladhi kana ya'mur bil ma'rufi wa yanha 'anil munkar. So he actually said to the two, he said, may Allah have mercy on the one who used to call to the good and forbid the evil. Meaning his dog. He's making dua for his dog because his dog was that one. That's what he did. He called to the good and forbade the evil from coming and knocking on his door. And this story, you can read it in the Khatib al-Baghdadi's Sharaf Ashab al-Hadith. And towards the end, he has different stories about Al-Amash. And also you can read about his different stories in Siyar A'lam al-Nubala. But that's how he was. He was a person who was very, very tough in his character. But he did it for a purpose, because if you're the type of person who's really, really struggled to get the knowledge, you don't want to give the knowledge to a person who doesn't take it seriously. A person who's just trying to seek knowledge just because of a resume or for some status with the people, or to say, or to brag and boast about, oh, I got a hadith from Amash. I got, Amash said to me, Amash said to me, this type of understanding. Oh, I went and asked the sheikh and the sheikh told me. And that's why you see a lot of students of knowledge, they have questions, just basic questions that they could go ask anybody. They could ask any student around them, out of the big students, but no, he's got to go bother the sheikh. He's got to go sit down, even though the sheikh is busy, but he's got to go because he wants to know, he wants to say, the sheikh told me this. And this type of attitude, this is what Al-Amash, he saw in the people, in the students of hadith. He saw this type of attitude and he wanted to weed that out so he could only have the most serious students around him. For an example, one person, he came up to him in the masjid and asked him about al-isnad. He said, well, ma al-isnad? And you know, and isnad, obviously the guy is asking about the isnad in the hadith. So he knew that the person, he just, I mean, I can't say he knew because he doesn't know what's in the hearts of people, but he felt that the question wasn't sincere. So he turned around to the person. He's blind now, keep in mind that Al-Amash is blind. And he grabbed him and he slammed him up on the wall and held him up on the wall. He said, هذا هو الإسناد في اللغة العربية, and just dropped him and walked off. So, and he said, this is isnad, because isnad obviously is to, like, you know, to put to, you know, because that's a isnad, it's a chain of narration, right? So he put him up against the wall, and what he was talking about was al-isnad. He hung him up. He said, this is the isnad in the Arabic language, and he dropped him and he walked off, you know. So this was his behavior, because once he saw that a person was not serious, this is how he dealt with the person to get rid of him, because he just wanted the people away from him. Another example of that was one time when he was teaching. He had a whole group of people that were surrounding him in a majlis. And a person tried to sneak into the majlis and get close to Al-A'mash, and he had his little, they had these little, like a little tablet thing that he used to write on, the students of hadith. So he tried to get close and sneak in because he knows Al-A'mash is blind, right? So he gets in and he's trying to write. So Al-A'mash, you know, hadathana, he's reading out the hadith, and then he knew that somebody was next to him, because I mean, you know, obviously, you know, the blind people, they have stronger sense of, like, you know, the other senses become heightened. So he knew. So what he did is he he gathered up all the mucus that he could gather up. He just, you know, just like gathered and boom, spit right in the guy's face, right in his face. And the thing about it was about, because he wanted the hadith, like he was serious. So he has all this thick mucus all over his face, and it's just dripping down his face. But he couldn't say one word, because if he said one word, Al-Amash would have kicked him out, then he wouldn't have gotten the hadith. So he sat there with the mucus dripping off his face, and he sat quiet. He didn't say anything. And then Al-Amash just went back and he kept reciting the hadith, because once he knew that this dude was serious, he recited the hadith, and the guy wrote the hadith, and he didn't bother him anymore. And he stayed like that the whole majlis until Al-Amash finished his lesson, and until he finished giving the people hadith, and then he goes and washes his face off. So, I mean, this is the type of person he was. And it wasn't because he was trying to be rude with the people but he did not want the knowledge to go to a person who did not work hard for it, who didn't understand the value, the qima of that knowledge. You know, so a lot of people that, especially from the students of hadith, they just jump around. They say, oh, I studied with the sheikh. I studied with the sheikh. Yeah, but what did you learn from that sheikh? What did you get from his character? What did you get from the way that he handles things? What did you get from the usul of the deen that you learned, his opinions? Can you sit down right now and go through a book of hadith and tell the opinions of your sheikh on every single masala in that book? If you can't do that, then you haven't actually benefited anything from your sheikh. You haven't benefited from his manners and how he handles situations, his wisdom, and you haven't benefited his knowledge, because his knowledge is in his opinions on these different masail. So if I can, like for example, like this book right here, Al-Muntaqa, which is a book that my sheikh taught. If I'm not able to go through this book, all right, and go through this book and give you the opinions of every single thing, of every single masala, these are the opinions of my sheikh, what have you benefited? And not just knowing the opinions, but also going back and researching those opinions and knowing where your sheikh got those opinions from, and then understanding like what's going on in his head. And then that way, when you go and you sit down with him and you have a discussion about these masail, you're having a discussion that's ilmi. And then that's when the sheikh will know that you're serious. You just go up and say, you know, just like silly questions to the sheikh. They're not going to take you serious. The majority of the ulama, they'll just answer your questions and keep going and forget who you are in a second. But if you really want to like benefit from the sheikh and have that type of ability to sit down, you have to go back and you have to research. When you see what his opinions are, you research them. And then that way, when you have that chance to sit down with him and to benefit from him, then you can sit down and say, okay, you know, the sheikh will go back and forth with you. And then you even benefit even more. Because, I mean, this is one of the statements of Al-Amash. And it's not just one of the statements of Al-Amash, but it's also it's a statement that you see that a lot of the ulama from before, they use this statement. Because one time Al-Amash, and I'm going to get to the statement in a second, inshallah, but first the background. And one time Al-Amash, he was walking in the tariq, in the pathways, right? In the streets. Because they didn't have like streets back then, obviously. So So he saw a guy. He was sitting down and he was giving hadith to like this young man. And the young man didn't even look serious. He didn't look like a real student of knowledge. But he was trying to like, teach him and give him hadith and teach him hadith and have him memorize the hadith. So Al-Amash, he saw him and he saw what was going on. And he looked at the guy. He said, Ya Fulan, لماذا تعلق اللؤلؤ على أعناق الخنازير? He said, why are you hanging pearls on the necks of pigs? And what he means by that is, why are you giving knowledge to a person who doesn't deserve it? This person's not serious. If he's serious, he's going to be in the masjid learning with the people. You're not going to be giving them knowledge out in the tariq, So the thing about it is that, and that's how, I'm not saying that's how we have to be, because people, there's tafawut. You understand? Like, people are different and not everybody is the same. So you have certain ulama, they're very nice. They're very, they're jovial. They have a smile. And you have other ulama, they're very serious, because, and it's based on the struggles that the person had to go through to get that. So Al-Amash was a person, he really struggled to get the knowledge that he had. He really took it seriously. And he was not about to allow that knowledge to go to another person who didn't take it seriously. So he would rather have 5 students that were very serious than to have thousands of students that, that didn't take it seriously. And that's how we have to be. We have to be like that because, like, for example, you look at like a lot of people that boast like this big following on YouTube. They got hundreds of thousands of followers on YouTube. But what? Are those people serious? And are you giving them anything serious? And right now, if you were to die and you're dead and gone, your YouTube videos are finished, what are the people, what have those hundreds of thousands of people benefited from you? What can they do now? What can they open up a masjid now and be the imam of the masjid and teach the people that, all they need to know about their religion? Or are they just like, or did you just make them well versed in talking about celebrities and current events and trivial matters that mean nothing? So we have to raise the people up on knowledge and being serious about the knowledge. Being serious. So don't look at a person. If you see him, why don't you smile a lot? You smile. Why would you want to, smiling is sadaqah. And when you greet your brother, you smile. But does that mean that, the person has to walk around and have this type of jovial type behavior and smile all the time? Or I'm not going to sit with him because he doesn't smile. What type of foolishness is this? People are serious and knowledge is serious and it's a serious matter. And people who really, really, truly take it serious, and they're not going to see them, especially when they're in the midst of teaching the people, they're not going to have that smile. They'll smile when they greet you. They'll smile if you're a guest in the house. But when it comes to knowledge and it comes to affairs of this religion, they take it very seriously. They take it very seriously. And that's the opposite of what you see with the majority of the people. They take nothing seriously. Nothing seriously. This knowledge right now, you have to be ready to die for it. Give your life for it. That's what this knowledge is about. And I'm not talking about this type of foolish terrorism behavior. What I'm saying is, if people were to attack you, to leave this knowledge, to give up this knowledge, you're ready to give your life than to leave this knowledge. Okay? And that's what we have to be about. We have to be about that from the beginning all the way to the end. That our whole lives, we take this knowledge serious, because this is our akhirah. This is right now, all that goes on in the dunya is temporary. But once we die and we get put in the graves, it becomes everlasting. So whatever you've achieved in this life, those achievements are going to set the tone for what's going to happen to you in the next life. So if you spend your life being serious about knowledge, serious about seeking knowledge, and serious about practicing the knowledge and calling the people to that knowledge, then inshallah we hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through that seriousness and through the diligence and the persistence and the discipline that we had, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will have mercy on us and enter us into Jannah, and then we can relax. We can relax. I remember even when I was in Damaj, and this was not just something that I used to think. This was something that a lot of the brothers, we used to all say together. We say, subhanAllah, I hope that in Jannah, if we ever get to Jannah, that I can still be a talib al-ilm even in Jannah. That I can still have my books and I can still do this, because I get so much lidha, so much peace and tranquility in this life from having that in this life. I couldn't imagine the next life without it. So Allah musta'an.